Hello! Hi! Welcome to this video where I show you how I turned this into this. Yep, that's my Sona that I turned into an actual Fursuit Head. This entire thing took me over 2 months from start to finish. I'm still working on other parts of the partial, like claws, but this video is not about those. So, it all began when I bought a 3D printer. To me, a 3D printer is like one of the coolest things because you can bring the things that were in your computer to real life. So, after weeks of playing around with the printer, I had this idea to make an action figure out of my Sona, which didn't really turn out the way I wanted, but then something crossed my mind. Why not make a Fursuit Head? I've always wanted a Fursuit Head, but every creator I talked to was either too expensive or simply didn't want to do it because, let's be honest, my head is not the easiest to make. So I went on Google and started looking at 3D printer fursuit heads, and almost all of them look something like this. A skeleton that allows you to put fur on it. For my case, it was not usable because, well, I'm a dragon and I don't have any fur on my face, so the challenge was to make the model in a way that'll look cool without having to cover it in fur. So I grabbed the drawing board and came up with a plan on how to make the mask. This was the basic idea of how big everything should be and where all the components are supposed to go. With that, I grabbed my VRChat avatar and started remaking it into the mask pieces. I had to make the jaw, the teeth, the skull and everything else separately and watertight, otherwise it wouldn't have been a good print. Then I 3D scanned my own head for accurate measurements and started moving things around to make it wearable. One of the big issues with semi-realistic heads is the eye placement. 2D heads usually have giant eyes where you can easily see through, although it also depends on the creator, but in my case my eyes were pretty much inside the muzzle, so I had to come up with a solution to see without destroying the mask too much. After morphing and warping a lot of parts, I opened 2 big slots under the eyes along the muzzle to cover with mesh as my eye holes. Of course, I couldn't be sure if it would work without printing it and putting it on, but I couldn't just print it over and over. Just the skull took me over 45 hours to print, so I had to leave as little room for error as possible. So I started printing the lower jaw and teeth first, since they were the fastest to print and I could have an idea of their size. Once I was satisfied with it, I put the skull to be printed. It took a very long time, but it was all worth it. I had my Sona's head in my hands. After that, it was a matter of coloring it and putting all the components together. I wanted to have glowing eyes, fans, a moving jaw, and smoke that came out of my nose, and I was ready to take on all the challenges it could throw my way. I had to test a few mounting methods to see which one would work best for my case and which one's the most comfortable. I also had to come up with a solution for the glowing eyes. The problem was the eye sockets were very close to my face and I didn't have much room to put whatever I wanted behind them. So after trying many different methods, I ended up using some neon wires, which worked the best. Then I finished the wiring inside the mask and started working on the back of the head. After a few days I was almost done with the aesthetics, but then the jaw broke. I was using elastic strips as the jaw muscles, which became undone after putting the mask on a few times. So I had to replace that with metal springs that I had to embed into the plastic walls of the mask to make sure it won't come undone ever again. Even though it was not the easiest things to deal with, especially after I was almost done, it made the jaw movements a lot smoother, so I'm happy. The final thing was the smoke. All I had to do was to build a mini smoke machine. For that I used an aquarium pump, a vape atomizer, a timer module and a lot of soldering. And then I had my own smoke machine. It has a very small tank, but it's fine to show the effect here and there. I can't really run it for too long since the atomizer tends to get very hot. That's where the timer module comes into play. It keeps the kit from overheating and makes the vape juice last a lot longer. It was finally done. I had made my very own Fursuit Head by myself. Here's a short video of everything in place. I hope you enjoyed watching my journey of turning my VRChat avatar into an actual Fursuit Head. I will be going to Fur East and Euroference this year, so if you see me, come and say hi. But until then, have a good time. Goodbye!